cosmic abyss, my mind takes flight.
Hello viewers, yes, this is Ranjana ma'am, and from your comments I get to know that you are waiting expectantly for my part 2 regarding Julius Caesar. I know this is the toughest nut to crack, Julius Caesar. So I'll start from Act 3 Scene 2 because I have already done Act 3 Scene 1 in my part 1, and in this part I'll try to cover more or less the whole of Julius Caesar because Act 3 Scene 2 is very detailed, the others are not so. So without wasting any more time, let's start. But before I do, you know what's coming. If you have not subscribed to my channel up till now, please do. And yes, don't forget to press the like. So regarding Act 3 Scene 2, the first one which is very important, you should focus very much, is the speech of Brutus. Be patient till the last, Romans, countrymen and lovers. So Brutus, he gives reasons why Julius Caesar was killed. So the different reasons and how he loved Caesar and why did he kill Caesar. So the reasons, you might be told to give the reasons. That my love for Caesar was no less than anyone in the crowd. And then, not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved more. So this is the most important cause why Brutus killed Caesar. He was a patriot. And that is why he thought that the other conspirators were also patriots and they did not want Caesar to become a tyrant. And that is why he joined hands with them. So this is the real reason. So not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. And then he says that as Caesar loved me, I weep for him. So he has nothing against Caesar. He was fortunate, I rejoice at it. He was valiant, I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. So why did he kill Caesar? Or why was he party to the conspiracy? Was because Caesar was ambitious. So naturally this speech is very important. And after that, the speeches of Mark Antony, especially, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. The lines, there are several extracts are here. You might get from the first part, from the second or the third part. So you might get this one, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. So here also, since he has been told not to say anything against the conspirators but praise Caesar as much as he wants, but he rather begins it in a very dramatic fashion. He says, I have not come here to praise Caesar, but I have come to conduct the last rituals of him. And it is a rule that when people die, their evil work is remembered more than their good work, good deeds. Good deeds are easily forgotten. It goes with the person to his grave. But the evil deed remains even after the person dies. So this is one. And the line which comes again and again is, Brutus says he was ambitious and Brutus is an honorable man. So which are the reasons Mark Antony gives to contradict Brutus? So you might be told, give 3 reasons. Which Mark Antony, 3 points which Mark Antony puts forward before the common people to prove that Caesar was not ambitious. So he was my friend, faithful and just to me, but Brutus says he was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man. Then another potent reason which he gives, especially this one is more potent than the previous one, that he had brought many captives to Rome, and then whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. So the ransoms which were paid to free the captives, Caesar did not use it personally. He did not keep it for his personal use, but filled the state treasury with it. So does this seem ambition? Contradiction. When the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says, so this is another contradiction. And the most powerful contradiction is, in the feast of Lupercal, Mark Antony had offered the crown 3 times to Julius Caesar and he had refused it. Every time he had refused it. So if Caesar had been ambitious, wouldn't he have accepted the crown? So this is the most powerful one. So if you are give 3 reasons Mark Antony puts to prove that Caesar was not ambitious. So these are the 3 points. And then you have it here again. Here is a parchment. So he produces the will of Caesar before the common people. And then he says, so what would the people do if they hear the will? They would go and kiss dead Caesar's wounds, dip their napkins in his sacred blood, and beg a hair of him for memory. Three things the public would do. And dying, mention it within their wills, bequeathing it as a rich legacy unto their issue. So you might get a question from this part. And then later you have it here. The most important one, or rather quite an important one, if you have tears, prepare to shed them now. So how he blames each of the conspirators, but in a very clever manner. All these are just emotional blackmailing, because what he says is really a lie, but he knows how to make the people emotional. How could he have known which grant was made by Casca, which hole was made by Brutus, where did Brutus stab? How could he know it? Because he was not present there. Trebonius had taken him out. So he is just bluffing, he is fooling the common people by showing the mantle and telling this rent was made by Casca, this is where Brutus struck, Brutus was his angel, and this is the one made by Cassius. So Mark Antony is a very shrewd person and he knows how to use public emotion to his favor. So this speech is very important. You might get questions from here. And then again, he says something but he means something else. Irony. So let me not stir you up to such a sudden flood of mutiny. Good friends, sweet friends, this speech. They that have done this deed are honorable. Again, he ridicules them. Outwardly he says honorable, but he doesn't mean it. What private griefs they have, alas, I know not, that made them do it. They are wise and honorable and will no doubt with reasons answer you. And then he compares himself to Brutus and he says Brutus is a very good orator, I am not so good. But rather we know that he is a better orator than Brutus, because he knows how to emotionally blackmail the people, how to turn their emotions to his point, to his favor. They were against Antony's speech. They did not want to listen to Antony's speech initially after the speech of Brutus. And how he just turned the tables against Brutus by emotionally appealing to these, and not only that, the clever move, reading the will. And he says, yes, so what are the things Caesar has left in his will? This is important. Here is the will, and under Caesar's seal, to every Roman citizen he gives, to every several man, 75 drachmas. So this is one. How much has Caesar left in his will, as said by Mark Antony? 75 drachmas to every Roman. Not only that, this speech. Moreover, he had left you all his walks, his private arbors and new planted orchards on this side Tiber. He hath left them you and to your heirs forever, to walk abroad and recreate yourself. So these are the important ones in Act 3, Scene 2. And regarding Act 3, Scene 3, this is actually a very short scene where we find Cinna. He is not the conspirator Cinna, he is the poet Cinna. So when people, they go beyond control, they don't see rhyme or reason, they are lusty for blood. And that is what happens. Poor Cinna, the poet, gets killed because he bears the same name as that of Cinna the conspirator. So he is killed because of the crime of someone else. And then Act 4, Scene 1. So the triumvirate and Mark Antony. So this speech is important. These many then shall die, their names are pricked. Octavius, your brother too must die. Consent you, Lepidus? I do consent. Prick him down, Antony. Lepidus, upon condition Publius shall not live, who is your sister's son, Mark Antony. So here we find what is meant by their names are pricked. You might get questions of this sort. Why are these names pricked? Their names are pricked because it means the names of the men. These are the names of the men who are to be executed. So they have made a list of these people. What was Antony's reply to the condition put forward by Lepidus? And what does Lepidus ask? What does Antony ask Lepidus to do after this, and why? So Lepidus has put forward what condition? That Publius, who is Mark Antony's nephew, sister's son, he will also die. Antony replies affirmatively. And then he tells Lepidus what? To go to Caesar's house and bring Caesar's will. So having the will in hand, they would decide how much to reduce the amounts of money to be paid in legacies. So while trying to incite the public against Brutus, he tells that 75 drachmas to each. But now that the time has come to pay these, he wants to cut off he doesn't want to give the public their due. So he is such a shrewd person, he is such a cunning fellow. And then next one, what opinion does Antony hold of Lepidus? Antony has an action plan for Lepidus. What does he propose to do with him after making use of him? And what does Octavius say about Lepidus to Antony? So in this scene we find that these are the important ones. So what does Antony say? Antony considers Lepidus as an insignificant fellow who has no merit, who is only fit to be sent to do all sorts of jobs, menial jobs. He is just like Antony's horse. He should be trained, taught and ordered to carry out certain tasks. He doesn't have any innovative ideas. And he will be contented with the rejected and broken things which are thrown away as worthless. He is an imitative person. He imitates the manners of others which have become stale. So Antony wants to use Lepidus only as a tool which is to be used for a particular purpose. And once he has done what Antony wants out of him, he wants to discard Lepidus. That means he doesn't want to give Lepidus a share of their whatever they get after the war. He doesn't want to share it with Lepidus. So it is between Octavius and Antony. This is what Antony proposes. But Octavius is not really happy with it. So what is his opinion? He says that Antony may deal with Lepidus in whichever way he wants, but according to Octavius, Lepidus is a brave soldier and he has proved his worth. So Octavius is not really against Lepidus or considers him to be an unmeritable man. As Antony says, he is a slight unmeritable man, only fit to be sent on errands. And later also, Antony tells Octavius, Octavius, I have seen more days than you. And though we lay these honors on this man to ease ourselves of divers slanderous loads, he shall but bear them as the ass bears gold. So these are important ones in Act 4, Scene 1. Then let's move to Act 4, Scene 2. Act 4, Scene 2 is a very short one. Sorry, 1 minute. No, it's really not short. I mistook it. So Act 4, Scene 2, we find Brutus is waiting for Cassius. He's not really happy in the last few days or in the recent times. The brotherly love is a bit tarnished. He's not really happy with Cassius's doing. So Pindarus comes and tells that Cassius. So Cassius comes with his army and Brutus is here with his army, and the two armies they plan to join and fight the forces of Mark Antony and Octavius. So when Cassius comes, Brutus is very angry and so is Cassius. Cassius immediately comes and starts blaming Brutus. So, most noble brother, you have done me wrong. Cassius. So Brutus here we find seems to be more mature than Cassius, and then he tells Cassius, be content. Speak your grief softly. Why does he say this? I do know you well. Before the eyes of both our armies here, which should perceive nothing but love from us, let us not wrangle. Bid them move away. Then in my tent, Cassius, enlarge your griefs and I will give you audience. At this moment, we find Brutus to be a very controlled man in control of his emotions. Not like Cassius, who starts raving the moment he appears. But Brutus, why? What is the reason that he gives to Cassius to be calm? Because the two armies are to fight the enemy forces together jointly. So the two armies should see that the generals are in harmony with each other. And that is why he says, let us enter the tent, and there whatever complaints you have, you can open your heart out. But once they enter the tent, we find Brutus is also not happy. So when Cassius says that you have wronged me doth appear in this first speech. You have condemned and noted Lucius Pella for taking bribes here of the Sardians, wherein my letters praying on his side, because I knew the man were slighted of. So this is important. And then Brutus also, this speech of Brutus, let me tell you, Cassius, you yourself are much condemned to have an itching palm, to sell and mart your offices for gold to undeservers. So here we find that Brutus is really angry, but he did not show that anger in the previous scene. Why? Because he did not want the soldiers to see that they are not happy with each other. But now he says this. And then Cassius keeps on ranting and must hear me, for I will speak. Must I give way and room to your rash choler? Shall I be frighted when a madman stares? When Brutus says this, Cassius keeps on shouting, O ye gods, must I endure this? So then Brutus again says, all this, more, fret till your proud heart breaks. So this is again how Brutus is angry, and when Cassius threatens him also, Brutus is not afraid. Why should he be? He is also a brave soldier. So when Cassius challenges him, Brutus patiently accepts the challenge. So when Cassius says, know you know that you are Brutus that speaks, or by the gods this speech were else your last. So he threatens Brutus, challenges him. The name of Cassius honors this corruption, and chastisement doth therefore hide his head. So you might get, where are the two speakers? And what does Brutus mean by chastisement doth therefore hide his head? Third one, why has Cassius come to meet Brutus in this scene? What has Brutus just said to make Cassius react so aggressively? So these are the questions that might come in your Act 4, Scene 3. So then again when You say you are a better soldier, let it appear so. Make your wanting true, and it shall please me well. For mine own part, I shall be glad to learn of noblemen. So Brutus ridicules Cassius. And now, the moment he says you're a better soldier, prove it, then Cassius goes back. He says, I said an elder soldier, not a better. At this moment, he says, he goes back on his words. But you know, earlier he had said, I am a soldier, I older in practice, abler than yourself. That is what he had said. But the moment Brutus challenges him or accepts the challenge, then he says, I said an elder soldier, not a better. Did I say better? But he had said abler. And then again a speech of Brutus, you have done that you should be sorry for. There is no terror, Cassius, in your threats. So up till now we find an angry Brutus too also. And later we get the reason that he has got the news of his wife's death. And this could be a reason for his sudden outrage. Normally Brutus seems to be quite a stoic. He is indifferent to pleasure and pain. A stoic is a person who is indifferent to pleasure and pain. But then soon we find him again a little later. Sheathe your dagger. Be angry when you will, it shall have scope. Do what you will, dishonor shall be humor. O Cassius, you are yoked with a lamb that carries anger as the flint bears fire. Who much enforce shows a hasty spark and straight is cold again. So Brutus normally doesn't get angry. And when he gets angry also, he says that when he is provoked, he gets angry, but that anger does not last for long. But anyway, Cassius gets to know that Brutus is angry because he has got the news of Portia's death. And later, after this, when all of them leave, another important event takes place. But before that also, something more. Good reasons must of force give place to better. Cassius had suggested that they should wait, but Brutus suggests that they should march to Philippi. It's not Philippi. And Brutus is confident, or rather overconfident. Whatever Cassius says, he overrules it, but it is proved to be his decisions. They have to pay for his wrong decisions. He takes wrong decisions. Good reasons must of force give place to better. He thinks his reason is better. And what reason does he give for moving to Philippi? You might get a question of this sort. So the people betwixt Philippi and this ground do stand but in a forced affection, for they have grudged us contribution. The enemy marching along by them shall make a fuller number up. Come on, refresh, new added and encourage. From which advantage shall we cut him off? If at Philippi we do face him there. These people at our back. So it seems quite logical when Brutus says that they are at Sardis and he wants to move to Philippi where Mark Antony and Octavius' soldiers are. So he says that the people in between Sardis and Philippi, they are not in friendly relations with us. And how does Brutus get to know? Because when they had gone for contributions to raise their army, so they had not given it. Or if they had given, they had not given it wholeheartedly. So Brutus feels that they are inimical towards this, Brutus's and Cassius's army. So if they allow Mark Antony to come to Sardis, so these people who are not happy with Brutus, they might go and join this army. So in this case, what will happen? Mark Antony's army will be much full. He doesn't want this. So that is why rather than keep these people at our back, rather than allow them to join Mark Antony's army. But Cassius is not really happy, and whenever Cassius seems to be unhappy, it really, and whatever he expects, or rather whatever are his reasons, they are always solid. And they prove to be true. He had said Mark Antony should not live, but Brutus gave him life. and now they are suffering on account of it. After this, another important one is the ghost of Caesar's coming. How ill this taper burns. After the ghost of enter the ghost of Caesar, this one. How ill this taper burns. Who comes here? I think it is the weakness of mine eyes. And then he challenges the apparition to speak to him. Speak to me what thou art. And then thy evil spirit Brutus, why comest thou? To tell thee that thou shalt see me at Philippi. So the second time also Caesar's ghost comes at Philippi, and then only Brutus realizes that his last hour has come. So when he wakes the people up, none of them have seen or heard anything. So this is where Act 4, Scene 3, or rather Act 4 comes to an end. And in Act 5, Scene 1, so the fight, verbal fight between Brutus, Cassius in one side and Mark Antony and Octavius on the other. So the ways they fight, the words, good words are better than bad strokes, Octavius. Antony, in your bad strokes, Brutus, you give good words. Witness the hole you made in Caesar's heart, crying, long live, hail Caesar. So your extracts can be from here. So Antony, the posture of your blows are yet unknown, but for your words they rob the Hybla bees and leave them honeyless. So these are very probable places from where extracts might come. I'm not saying that they are coming. I'm not the paper setter. But we can guess. And if you stress and read these places again and again, you are the one to benefit. Not stingless too, oh yes, and soundless too, for you have stolen their buzzing, Antony, and very wisely threat before you sting. And then later Octavius says, look, I draw a sword against conspirators. When think you? So this part, and then after they are gone, Cassius tells Messala, while Brutus and Lucilius they are talking, Cassius tells Messala, this is my birthday, as this very day was Cassius born. So actually Cassius is not happy. He is fighting against his will. Why? He had wanted to stay at Sardis and let Mark Antony's army and Octavius's army come there and then fight. But he is being forced against his will to march to Philippi and fight, face the army. So he is not happy. So that is why he says, be thou my witness that against my will, as Pompey was, am I compelled to set upon one battle all our liberties. You know that I held Epicurus strong, and this opinion now I change my mind and partly credit things that do presage. This speech, the whole speech of Cassius is important. So you might get a question, what is Cassius compelled to do? So Cassius is compelled, and again, who is Pompey? Why is he referred to in the extract? So Pompey, you have heard of him so many times. So Pompey had agreed against his own will to fight in the battle of Pharsalia, and where he had suffered a heavy defeat, and Cassius also is being forced against his will to fight in a battle, because he has agreed to stake everything on the result of the single battle which is about to start, and where? At Philippi. What is Cassius compelled to do, and who has compelled him? So this is again more or less similar, and Brutus has compelled him. And who is Epicurus? What was his view? If Cassius held the viewpoint of Epicurus, what makes him now to change his mind? Why does he change his mind now? So Epicurus was a Greek philosopher, and his main doctrine was that pleasure is the beginning and end of living happily. Like in our Indian philosophy, we have Charbak's philosophy, eat, drink and be merry. So Epicurus was like this. And why does Cassius refer to Epicurus? Because Epicurus had no belief in omens. And being a follower of Epicurus, even Cassius did not believe in omens, but now he believes. So, Cassius now has changed his mind and he believes in omens in which he had never believed before. So, give the meaning of and partly credit things that do presage. So, this line means that I have started, or rather I have started believing partly in omens and presentiments. So he has changed his viewpoints from being a supporter or a follower of Epicurus. He has now started believing in omens. Who is Messala and where is Cassius at this time? So he is talking to Messala. So Messala is a friend of Brutus and Cassius. And Cassius at this time, he is in the plains of Philippi where a battle between the opposing forces is about to begin. Opposing forces, one side Octavius and Mark Antony and the other side Brutus and Cassius. And then later we find Act 3, Scene 3, Act 5, Scene 2 is very short, and Act 5, Scene 3, Cassius tells Titinius to go and have a look. Go as fast and have a look and then come back and tell me whether the people in the distance, they are friends or enemies. And what does Titinius say? I will be here again even with a thought. And then Cassius tells, go Pindarus, get higher on that hill. My sight was ever thick. Regard Titinius and tell me what thou notest about the field. So short questions. Who are Titinius and Pindarus? Where are they at the moment and why? This is one. Explain the meaning even with a thought and why has Titinius to go. So very brief, to the point answers needed. What report did Pindarus now give about Titinius? How did Cassius interpret this report? What action did Cassius now take? And how did the outcome of this affect Pindarus? So Titinius is a friend of Brutus and Cassius, and where are they at that moment? Pindarus also we have to say, Pindarus is a servant, bondsman, slave of Cassius. And where are they at this moment? This is the second part. So in every subpart you are to change line and start your answer in a fresh line even if there is space left. At present they are in the battlefield, underline battlefield. Keywords. And why? So where are they at the moment? They are in the battlefield. And why? Because they are fighting a battle. And explain the meaning even with a thought. And why has Titinius to go? Even with a thought means as fast as a thought or as quick as a thought. And Titinius has to go to find out whether the soldiers belong to the enemies or are on their side. That means whether they are their own soldiers or the soldiers of the enemy. What report did Pindarus now give to Titinius? And now give about Titinius and Cassius's interpretation. And then what does he tell? He tells Pindarus to come down and he blames himself. He calls himself a coward. Why? Because he feels because of me Titinius has been taken a prisoner. Then what action does he take? He tells Pindarus to stab him with that very sword with which he had stabbed Caesar. So one revenge taken. And Cassius, this action of Cassius, how does it benefit Pindarus? Pindarus becomes a free person. So, after that, Brutus, are yet 2 Romans living such as these? The last of all the Romans, fare thee well. It is impossible that ever Rome should breed thy fellow. So this is when Brutus reaches and finds Titinius and Cassius, both of them dead. So he refers to Cassius and Titinius as the two Romans. So yet two Romans living such as these. So as if they are the bravest Romans that ever lived. And then after this we find in the next one, Scene 4, Act 5, Scene 4, Lucilius, he offers himself to the soldiers as Brutus, and then Mark Antony, when he comes, he knows that this is not Brutus. So he asks, where is Brutus? So Lucilius, safe Antony, Brutus is safe enough. I dare assure thee that no enemy shall ever take alive the noble Brutus. The gods defend him from so great a shame. When you do find him, or alive or dead, he will be found like Brutus, like himself. So what a great friend of Brutus, what a loyal friend. He is ready to sacrifice his own life in order to save Brutus. So he says that may gods protect him from such an indignity. What is the indignity referred to here? Of being captured by Mark Antony. So Lucilius wants that Brutus, when he should be found, living or dead, he should be found as the noble man that he was. Antony, this is not Brutus' friend, but I assure you a prize no less in worth. Keep this man safe, give him all kindness. I had rather have such men as my friends than enemies. So Antony values Lucius's loyalty towards Brutus, and he says that no, he is not Brutus, but he is no less in value. So he values the loyalty of Lucilius, and rather he wishes to have Lucilius as a friend than an enemy. And Act 5, Scene 5, Brutus keeps on trying to reason with all his friends to kill him, but none of them agree. And then finally he convinces Strato. I pray thee, Strato, stay thou by the Lord. Thou art a fellow of a good respect. Thy life hath some snatch of honor in it. Hold then my sword and turn away thy face, while I do run upon it. Wilt thou, Strato? So earlier Brutus was also against suicide. He was a Stoic. But now he cannot bear to be captured. So this is an indirect suicide. He tells Strato to hold the sword and he runs into it. So he doesn't take the sword and kill himself, which is direct suicide. So Strato, you hold the sword. That means you are killing me and I will myself run into it. So Strato, he feels that he doesn't want Brutus to be captured and there is no other option left. So he is the only one who agrees. Give me your hand first. Fare you well, my lord. Farewell, good Strato. Caesar, now be still. I kill not thee with half so good a will. So he runs on the sword of Caesar and on the sword of Strato. And then he tells Caesar that may you rest in peace, the spirit of Caesar. So while I killed you, I was not so willing. But while killing myself, I am much more willing than the reluctance with which I killed you. So I killed you reluctantly, but I am killing myself in a much more willing manner. And the last, to sum up, this was the noblest Roman of them all. So this speech, this was a man. This speech is important. So the questions can be, who was the noblest Roman of them all? Which people are intended in the word all? So Brutus was the noblest Roman of all. And all here refer to Cassius, Casca, Cinna, Trebonius, Metellicimber and the conspirators. Give the meaning of, he only in a general honest thought and common good to all made one of them. So the meaning of this. So Brutus joined the conspirators thinking of the welfare of the Romans and for the good of Rome. Whereas the other conspirators, they had some personal griefs to go against Caesar. Where is Antony at this time? Antony is in the plains of Philippi. A decisive battle has been fought between the supporters of Caesar and against Brutus and Cassius's forces, and at this time he is with Octavius Caesar. What does Octavius order with regard to the funeral of the noblest Roman? The last speech. So Octavius says that Brutus's body should be treated with due respect, and all the ceremonies of burial to honor him will be performed. Brutus's dead body will lie in Octavius's tent, as a brave soldier's body should lie with all due honors. So this is how, though they had fought, there was a verbal duel between Brutus and Octavius, but he values bravery and he knows that this was really a noble person. They might have their personal differences while Brutus was alive, but he knows how to honor someone who deserves it. The other conspirators did not deserve any honor, but Brutus deserved. Why? Because he was noted for his love for Rome. So this is where Julius Caesar comes to an end. Our revision of Julius Caesar is complete. The next video, this is part 2. The part 3 will be not Julius Caesar but prose and poems. So bye for the time being and best of luck for your exams.